My wife Willow never imagined this would happen. She merely missed our daughter's birthday again, using being busy with work as her excuse. And I had already drafted the divorce agreement. She questioned me in confusion, just because I was a little late this time. But she had long forgotten how many times she had broken her promises. Last month, she missed my birthday, even though she had promised she would definitely come home on time. Last week, our daughter had a fever, and she wasn't there to take care of her. The day before yesterday, she was absent from the parent-teacher meeting, and this time, she had sworn, no matter what, she would not be late. What she didn't expect even more was that, while I was taking our daughter to buy a birthday cake, I accidentally saw what she called working overtime. She was actually having a candlelight dinner with another man. Willow thought I would be unwilling to let go of our 7-year relationship. Thought I couldn't bear to let our child grow up without a mother. But when I faced the double blow of career and love, and watched even my 5-year-old daughter break down in tears, shouting that she didn't want her anymore, that was when I finally made up my mind completely. Yet after my daughter and I walked away, she suddenly regretted everything, and was willing to give up her career and future just to win us back. Chapter 1. The lights in the financial news department were still on. Willow rubbed her sore eyes. The bottom right corner of her computer screen showed the time, 19:48. She shot to her feet, accidentally knocking over the coffee cup beside her. Damn it, she cursed, scrambling to save the documents on her desk. The brown liquid had already soaked through the top report, an analysis of a financial statement. Today is my birthday, she reminded herself. She had promised she would go home on time this time. Last week, Daisy had a fever and she wasn't there to take care of her. The day before yesterday, she missed the parent-teacher meeting again. This time, she had sworn, no matter what, she would not be late. Her phone vibrated. It was the editor-in-chief, Dorian. Willow, we just got word. The central bank might adjust the reserve requirement ratio tonight. We need an instant analysis. You're the most familiar with this area. Can you? She replied. Editor-in-chief Dorian, today is my husband's birthday. I already. Dorian's voice carried a tone that brooked no refusal. I know this puts you in a tough spot, but the finance channel specifically asked for you. This is a great opportunity. Half an hour at most. All right. Everyone knows your abilities. If this report goes well, next month's chief financial reporter position. Her fingers tapped the desk unconsciously. Chief financial reporter, the position she had fought for over the past 3 years. I understand. I'll start right away. She hung up and quickly dialed home. The phone rang for a long time before I finally picked up. In the background were Daisy's giggles and the sizzling sound of the frying pan. Hello. She hesitated noticeably. George, I suddenly have an urgent piece of news to handle. You two go ahead and eat. Don't wait for me. I'll come back as soon as I can. I was silent for 2 seconds. My tone was so calm it revealed no emotion. All right, go ahead. Don't overwork yourself. Daisy prepared a surprise for you. After hanging up, she stared at the screen and forced herself to focus. Her fingers flew across the keyboard. Financial jargon and analysis flowed from her mind into words with practiced ease. This was her domain. Clear, precise, rational. At 22:17, she finally closed her computer. The director of the finance channel personally called to praise her timely analysis. She should have felt excited, but all she felt was an indescribable exhaustion. When she pushed open the door to her home, only a dim wall lamp was lit in the living room. On the dining table were the dishes I had carefully prepared: sweet and sour ribs, steamed sea bass, braised prawns. All were my specialties, and all were her favorites. The dishes had gone cold, and a thin layer of white fat had solidified on the surface. The candles on the cake weren't lit. Next to it lay a handmade card from Daisy, the crooked handwriting spelling out, "Happy birthday, Daddy," with a drawing of 3 stick figures, one small one in the middle with pigtails. She gently pushed open her daughter's room. Daisy was curled up on her small bed, holding the teddy bear I had given her on my birthday last year. Willow leaned in to kiss her daughter's forehead, but caught a faint scent of cream. Daisy must have sneaked a taste of the cake. George was always like that. He would say they should wait for mommy, but he could never resist Daisy's pleading. The master bedroom door was ajar. George was lying on his side with his back to the door, his breathing even, already asleep. Willow tiptoed in, grabbed her pajamas, and went into the bathroom. The warm water washed over her tense nerves. It was just another small delay, she told herself. George will understand. He always does. When she came out, towel drying her hair, she noticed a glass of water placed on the bedside table, just as I always prepared warm water for her every night. She picked up the cup, then suddenly noticed a note tucked beneath it. Willow, the cake is in the fridge, the black forest you like. Daisy waited for you for a long time but couldn't stay awake. I have to take her to kindergarten early tomorrow morning, so I'm turning in as well. Happy birthday. 7 years ago today, when you agreed to marry me, that was the best gift you could ever give me. She stood in the dim bedroom, the glass trembling slightly in her hand. Today wasn't just my birthday, It was also our wedding anniversary. She had completely forgotten. Chapter 2. I stared at the code on the computer screen, my temples throbbing. I hadn't slept for 32 hours. Caffeine was rushing through my veins. Yet it couldn't stop the waves of exhaustion crashing over me again and again. Director Wong. The server crashed again. The intern, Chris, stood at the door of my office, his voice trembling with unease. The testing department said if we still can't fix it today. I know. I rubbed my bloodshot eyes and saved the code I had just modified. Tell the team to meet in the conference room in 5 minutes. My phone buzzed. It was a message from Daisy's kindergarten teacher. I glanced at the clock, 16:20. Only 10 minutes left before pickup time. I replied quickly, thanks for the reminder. I'll be there on time. In the conference room, 8 engineers with exhausted faces sat around the long table. I drew a simplified system architecture diagram on the whiteboard, circling the modules that might be causing the problem with a red marker. Chris, recheck the load balancing configurations. Dorian, take your team and review the database indexes. Victor, I need you to. My voice was steady and clear, with no hint that I had been working non-stop for a full day and night. The VP of Technology, David, pushed open the door, his expression dark. Old Wong. Headquarters just called. If the system can't run stably within 3 days, they're considering pausing the project. The air in the room froze instantly. This project was the company's most important investment of the year and the result of 8 months of effort from my team. I understand. My voice remained calm. We'll deliver a stable version on time. David patted my shoulder and lowered his voice. Everything okay at home? I heard Daisy had a fever a few days ago. She's fine now, I answered briefly, my eyes still fixed on the whiteboard. The priority right now is solving the server crashes. At 16:50, I grabbed my jacket and said, I have to pick up my daughter. I'll be back in 2 hours. Call me immediately if anything comes up. Director Wong. This bug, a young engineer stopped me anxiously. I paused, glanced swiftly over the code, and said, try wrapping this into a standalone function to reduce nested loops. I'll take a closer look when I get back. Outside the kindergarten, Daisy was already standing beside her teacher with her pink backpack. As soon as she saw me, she dashed over, her tiny pigtails bouncing behind her. Daddy, I drew a family picture today. Daisy excitedly pulled a sheet of paper from her backpack. On it were 3 crooked crayon figures. She pointed and introduced them one by one. This is Daddy, this is Mommy, and this is me. I crouched down, carefully taking the drawing with a smile. It's wonderful. Mommy might need to work late tonight, so Daddy will have dinner with you. Okay. Daisy's little face fell instantly. But Mommy said she would tell me a new story tonight. I gently stroked her soft hair and said softly, Mommy's really busy with work. Daddy will tell you 2 stories. How does that sound? Back home, I reheated the food while listening to Daisy chatter about her day at kindergarten. My phone buzzed nonstop. Engineers were having a heated debate in the workgroup chat. I settled Daisy in her chair and quickly replied with a few key instructions. Daisy pouted. Daddy, are you listening to me? I put down my phone immediately. Of course I am. You said May brought a new toy, didn't you? After dinner, I bathed Daisy and read 2 picture books to her until she finally drifted off to sleep. I gently closed her bedroom door, then immediately opened my laptop and remotely accessed the company system to continue debugging. At 23:40, I heard the sound of a key turning in the lock. Willow walked in quietly. Seeing the desk lamp still on and me working intently, she frowned slightly and asked, You're still up? My fingers kept flying across the keyboard as I answered without looking up. There's a critical bug in the system. I left some food in the fridge. Want me to heat it up for you? Willow set her bag down and collapsed onto the sofa, exhaustion filling her voice. No need. I had a working dinner with President Ito. She rubbed her temples, then added, Today's interview went really well. He gave us some internal data. Editor-in-Chief Dorian was very pleased. My fingers paused for a second. President Ito? You mean Makoto Ito, that rising tech star? Yes. The founder of Byteon Tech. Willow's voice suddenly brightened. He's a true business genius. He founded a billion-dollar company at 30. He invited me to do an exclusive interview on his entrepreneurial journey. It might even become a series of reports. I closed my laptop and turned to my wife, saying, Daisy asked several times today when you were coming home. She drew a family portrait and left it on your desk. A flicker of guilt crossed Willow's face. I know I've spent too little time with her this week, but this series of reports is a great opportunity. Makoto has huge influence in the industry. My voice was soft, yet carried a firmness that couldn't be ignored. We agreed last week that we would balance work and family. Daisy's teacher talked to me today. She said Daisy often asks at kindergarten, Does Mommy not want me anymore? Willow's expression changed. The teacher is exaggerating. Right. Daisy knows I love her. Once I finish this series, I'll definitely spend more time with her. It's been 7 years. Willow, I suddenly interrupted her. Ever since you became a financial reporter, it's always been after this report. After this project, Daisy is already 5. She needs her mother to exist in more than just photos. Willow shot to her feet. What's that supposed to mean? That I shouldn't pursue my career? You know how much I've sacrificed to stand my ground in a male-dominated field. My voice was tired yet steady. I know. I've always supported you. I turned down an offer from Google because it required relocating to the US. I refused 3 promotion opportunities because they meant more business trips. I never complained, because I believed our family was worth those sacrifices. Willow opened her mouth but couldn't say a word. She had never considered the choices I made behind the scenes. I'm not asking you to give up your career, I continued. I just want you to truly be present while Daisy grows up, even if it's only 1 or 2 days a week. Suddenly, Willow's phone rang. She glanced at the screen. It's Editor-in-Chief Dorian. I have to take this. I watched silently as she walked onto the balcony, her voice full of energy as she discussed the plans for Makoto's interview series. I gently closed my laptop, packed Daisy's stationery and clothes for the next day, then quietly walked into the bathroom. Warm water washed over my body. I closed my eyes, letting it carry away the wetness gathering at the corners. In 7 years of marriage, I had never doubted my love for Willow, but at this moment, a deep sense of helplessness flooded me like a rising tide. The next morning, as always, I prepared breakfast and took Daisy to kindergarten. Willow was still asleep. After finishing her call, she had worked until dawn. On the dining table, Daisy's family portrait lay casually beside a pile of documents, already creased. I carefully slipped the drawing into my briefcase, then kissed my daughter's rosy cheek. Daddy might be 10 minutes late picking you up today. I have a meeting with your teacher. Be good and listen to her. Okay. Daisy nodded, then suddenly asked, Daddy, does Mommy like working more than playing with me? A sharp pain twisted in my chest. I crouched down, looked her in the eyes, and said, Mommy loves you very, very much. She's just really busy right now, just like Daddy sometimes has to work late too. But that will never change how much she loves you. Daisy nodded as though she half understood, but I felt a sting of helplessness. I knew explanations like this were growing weaker, too weak even to convince a 5-year-old. At the office, I threw myself into work, pushing family worries aside for the moment. During lunch break, a colleague from HR walked into the tech department with an unfamiliar woman. Everyone, this is Anna, our newly hired project consultant. She'll be helping us optimize the product testing process for the next 2 weeks. I looked up. Standing beside the HR manager was a woman of about 30, dressed in a simple navy business suit. Her black hair was tied into a neat ponytail, and her sharp eyes were focused and steady. The HR manager added pointedly, Director Wong. Anna has extensive experience in automated testing. She can help us tackle the current stress testing issues. Anna smiled and extended her hand. I've heard a lot about you, Director Wong. I look forward to working with you. I shook her hand politely. Welcome aboard. I'll send you the project materials this afternoon. I didn't notice that as I walked away. Anna's thoughtful gaze lingered on my tired silhouette for a brief moment. Chapter 3. I stared at the error message on the computer screen and pressed my fingers against my temples. 3 consecutive days of intense work had blurred my vision, but the system's stability had finally shown a significant improvement. My phone buzzed. Daisy's kindergarten teacher's name appeared. Mr. Wong. Daisy says she feels dizzy and her temperature is a bit high. Could you come pick her up early? I immediately shut my laptop. I'll be there in 20 minutes. Thank you for letting me know. I quickly packed my things and knocked on the door of the next office. David, I need to pick up Daisy. She seems to have a fever. David nodded. Go. We'll handle the rest tomorrow. He hesitated for a moment, then asked, what about Willow? She has an important interview today. I replied briefly, already heading toward the elevator. At the kindergarten, Daisy was slumped weakly on a small chair, her little face flushed bright red. I crouched down and pressed the back of my hand to her forehead. She was burning up. Sweetheart, we're going to the hospital right away. I lifted Daisy gently. She immediately buried her feverish little face into my shoulder. In the car, I started the engine with one hand and dialed Willow with the other. After 6 rings, the call went to voicemail. Willow, Daisy has a high fever. I'm taking her to the children's hospital now. Call me back as soon as you get this. The emergency department was packed. Holding the drowsy Daisy in my arms, I waited 20 minutes in line at registration. Her temperature had risen to 39.3 degrees Celsius. Her small body squirmed uncomfortably in my embrace. Hang in there, sweetheart, I whispered, comforting her softly as I dialed Willow again. Still no answer. The doctor's preliminary diagnosis was influenza. He prescribed fever reducers and a blood test. With one arm holding Daisy and the other juggling slips, receipts, and forms, I rushed through the hospital corridors. During the blood draw, Daisy cried so hard it tore at my heart. I held her tightly, unable to say anything through the pain. When the test results came out, the doctor spoke with a grave expression. The white blood cell count is abnormal. It may be a bacterial infection. She needs to be admitted for observation. A wave of dizziness washed over me. I forced myself to remain calm. Is it serious? We'll start 4 treatment and see how the numbers look tomorrow. As he quickly filled out the orders, he asked, "Where's the mother? Some forms need a parent's signature." "She is at work." I tried calling Willow again. This time it went straight to voicemail. "Can I sign? I'm her father." By the time I finished the admission procedures, it was already 8 in the evening. Daisy lay on the hospital bed, a tiny 4 inserted into the back of her hand, already exhausted and asleep. I sat at her bedside and dialed Willow once more. Still no response. I opened WeChat and saw Willow's Moments post from 6 hours earlier. Exclusive interview with ByteDance tech founder Makoto. Live report from tonight's business summit. Attached was a photo of her and a well-dressed man in front of a luxury hotel, both holding champagne glasses and smiling brightly. My thumb hovered over the like button for a few seconds before I exited the screen. I opened my contacts and dialed another number. "Mom, Daisy's been hospitalized." "Yes, influenza with a secondary bacterial infection." "No, you don't need to come. If her fever doesn't go down tomorrow, we'll talk. Willow is busy with work." "Okay, I'll call if anything happens." After hanging up, I looked out at the pitch-black night sky. A deep loneliness washed over me, stronger than anything I'd felt before. The only sounds in the room were the rhythmic beeps of the monitor and Daisy's faint breathing. A nurse entered to change the 4 bottle. She glanced at me sympathetically. "Do you need to go home for some essentials? She won't wake up for a while." I shook my head. "No, I'll stay here with her." At 2 in the morning, Daisy's temperature suddenly spiked to 40 degrees Celsius and she began to ramble deliriously. The on-duty doctor rushed in and adjusted her medication. I held her burning little hand, watching the medical staff move around us, my heart pounding wildly against my ribs. "Daddy." "Mommy," Daisy murmured in half-consciousness, tears slipping from the corners of her tightly shut eyes. "Mommy will be here soon." "Sweetheart," I lied, my voice breaking. I called Willow again, still no answer. When morning sunlight finally filtered through the blinds, Daisy's temperature had dropped to around 38 degrees Celsius. I hadn't slept at all. My eyes were bloodshot, and dark stubble shadowed my jaw. I had just received the breakfast porridge from the nurse. Daisy managed to eat a few spoonfuls before falling asleep again. I mechanically chewed the steamed buns I bought from the hospital cafeteria, barely tasting anything. At 9 in the morning, the ward door suddenly swung open. Willow rushed in, still wearing the evening gown from last night's reception, now covered with a coat. Her makeup was partially smudged. "How's Daisy?" She hurried to the bedside and reached out to feel our daughter's forehead. I stood up abruptly and grabbed her wrist. "Do you know how many times I called you?" My voice was low, but each word squeezed out like compressed ice. Willow had never seen this expression on my face before, the cold fire burning in my eyes, the hard line of my jaw. My phone was on silent. It was in my bag. I didn't hear it. Willow pulled her hand free and tried to explain. "The investors Makoto introduced were important. I couldn't what? Couldn't pick up a call about your sick daughter." My voice trembled. "Her fever hit 40 degrees. The doctor said it could have been sepsis. And you were drinking champagne with that Ito guy." "Lower your voice." Willow glanced at the still sleeping Daisy and pulled me into the hallway. "How was I supposed to know it was this serious? You take Daisy to the hospital all the time. That's your explanation?" I stared at her in disbelief. 7 years. Willow. When Daisy had pneumonia and hadn't passed the danger period, you were rushing a manuscript. When she took her first steps, you were on a business trip. And now she's lying in a hospital bed, and you're out socializing like nothing is wrong. People passing through the hallway, nurses, patients' families, began to glance at us. Willow's face flushed red. "I don't need to be judged here," she snapped. "I have a job, ambitions, a career. What's wrong with that?" "No one said pursuing your career is wrong." My voice rose. Then I forced it down. "What's wrong is that family is always your last priority. What's wrong is that Daisy cried for you in her sleep last night, and you didn't even answer your phone." Guilt flickered in Willow's eyes, but it was quickly swallowed by defensive anger. "Do you think I want things to be like this? Do you know how hard it is for a woman to gain respect in the male-dominated financial media industry? Makoto's opportunity could let me compete directly for chief reporter. So that's your choice." My voice suddenly grew calm, a calm far more terrifying than anger. "Makoto and your career matter more than Daisy." "That's not what I meant." Willow's eyes filled with tears. I just go to work. Then Daisy has me." I turned back toward the ward. "It's been that way for the past 5 years anyway." Willow stood frozen in place, watching my back disappear behind the door. She wanted to follow, to explain, but the vibration from her bag interrupted her thoughts. It was Editor-in-Chief Dorian, no doubt calling about last night's report. She looked at the ward door, then at her phone, and finally answered the call. When Willow returned to the room after the call ended, I was sitting beside the bed, softly humming a lullaby. Daisy had woken up. She leaned weakly against my chest, clutching a tissue in her tiny hand. "Mommy." Daisy's eyes lit up when she saw Willow, then she started coughing. Willow rushed forward. "Baby, Mommy's here." She reached out to hold her, but Daisy clung tightly to my shirt. "Daisy, let Mommy hold you." "Okay," I coaxed gently, trying to loosen her grip. Daisy shook her head and buried her face in my chest. "I want Daddy." Willow's hand froze midair. Her heart clenched violently. She forced a small smile. "Baby, are you mad at Mommy? Mommy's been too busy with work." "I'm sorry." I didn't look at her. I only continued gently patting Daisy's back as I said, "The doctor said we need to observe her for 2 more days. If the indicators are normal, she can be discharged." I can take leave to stay with her," Willow suddenly said. I finally lifted my head to look at her, exhaustion and doubt filling my eyes. "Really?" Willow pulled out her phone. "Of course. I'll message the editor-in-chief right now." During the next 2 days, Willow really did stay at the hospital. Although she still had to take work calls and reply to emails from time to time, she spent most of her hours by Daisy's side. I went home to grab fresh clothes and handle some urgent tasks, but otherwise stayed in the hospital as well. On the second night, Daisy's temperature finally returned to normal. She lay between us, holding my hand with one tiny fist and Willow's with the other. For the first time in days, a smile appeared on her little face. "Can you tell me a story?" Daisy asked Willow with bright, expectant eyes. Willow glanced at her phone, where she had just received a message from Makoto. She hesitated, then set her phone aside. "Okay, Mommy will tell you the story of Snow White." Watching her tell a story to our daughter, I felt the anger inside me ease a little. Maybe this was a turning point. Maybe Willow had finally realized the importance of family. After Daisy was discharged and came home, Willow indeed adjusted her work schedule. She declined several evening social events and personally picked Daisy up a few times. Laughter returned to the house, and for the first time in a long while, there were 3 people at the dinner table again. But I noticed something. Willow's phone was always lit up. She replied to Makoto's messages with remarkable speed, and whenever she thought no one was watching, a certain look would appear on her face, an expression of anticipation and excitement, one she used to show only in front of me. One late night, a week later, I got up to drink some water and noticed the study light was still on. I walked over and saw Willow smiling at her computer screen, her fingers flying across the keyboard. On the screen was a video call window, Makoto's handsome face taking up half of it. Standing in the shadows of the doorway, I heard Willow say softly, "Thank you so much for understanding. Daisy being sick delayed the interview schedule." "Don't worry." Makoto's voice sounded through the speakers. "A talented and beautiful woman like you deserves a broader platform. The vice president position at Byteon Media that I mentioned, it's still reserved for you." I quietly retreated into the dark hallway. Back in the bedroom, I lay on the bed staring at the ceiling, and for the first time, I seriously considered a question I had never asked myself before. Had this marriage already reached its end? Chapter 4. I stared at the cake inside the oven. The clock hands were pointing to 7 in the evening. Daisy lay on the dining table with her chin in her hands, colorful crayons and a birthday card scattered in front of her. "Daddy, when is Mommy coming home?" Daisy drew a crooked heart on the card with a blue crayon. "I want to give Mommy a surprise." I wiped the flour off my hands and checked my phone. No new messages. 3 days ago, Willow did say she might come home late today, but last night she promised she would do her best to make it for dinner. Since today was her birthday, I gently stroked my daughter's soft hair. "Mommy is busy with work. Let's wait a little longer. Want to practice the birthday song you're going to sing for her?" Daisy hopped down from the chair and nodded eagerly. I opened the recording app on my phone, and she stood up straight, singing the entire birthday song in her sweet little voice, adding, "Mommy, I love you," at the end. I pressed the save button, a wave of bitterness rising in my chest. This was already the 3rd time this week that a surprise Daisy prepared for Willow fell through. The clay vase she made during Monday's art class, Willow only glanced at it before rushing out. On Wednesday, Daisy learned to write the word "Mommy," and waited excitedly until she fell asleep. But Willow never came home in time to see it. The timer beeped. I took the freshly baked cake out of the oven. I had taken half a day off and followed an online recipe to make Willow's favorite Black Forest cake. It wasn't perfect, but the cream was whipped, and the cherry filling was ready. At exactly 8 o'clock, my phone finally vibrated. It was a message from Willow. "George, a last-minute international video meeting came up. President Ito arranged a call with investors in Silicon Valley. I probably won't make it back. You two eat first. Don't wait for me." I stared at the screen, my fingers hovering above the keyboard, unsure what to reply. Daisy's hopeful eyes stabbed into my heart like knives. "Sweetheart." I knelt down so we were eye to eye. "Mommy has something very important to do at work. She might not come home for dinner." Daisy's little mouth trembled, tears welling up. But we said. "I know." I pulled her into my arms. "How about this? Daddy will take you to Mommy's favorite restaurant. We'll get her favorite tiramisu to go and celebrate when she comes back." "Okay." Daisy nodded reluctantly, gripping the birthday card tightly in her tiny hand. Half an hour later, I walked into La Dolce Vita with Daisy. This was the restaurant we visited every anniversary. Willow always said the tiramisu reminded her of the one she had in Venice on our honeymoon. Mr. Wang, long time no see, the owner, Marco, greeted warmly. A table for the whole family today. I forced a smile. Just me and my daughter. We'll take 2 desserts to go. Marco nodded knowingly and led us to a small windowside table. Have a seat. I'll have the kitchen make it fresh. Daisy leaned against the window, then tugged my sleeve. Daddy, is that mommy over there? I followed her gaze. In a semi-private booth at the back of the restaurant, Willow was holding a glass of red wine. Sitting across from her was Makoto, dressed impeccably in a tailored suit. Willow wore a deep red dress I had never seen before, her softly curled hair cascading over her shoulders, looking especially alluring under the candlelight. Makoto leaned forward slightly, his fingers brushing her wrist as if by accident. Both of them wore intimate smiles. My blood turned to ice. I quickly blocked Daisy's line of sight. That's not mommy. Sweetheart, you're mistaken. It is mommy, Daisy insisted, already sliding off her chair. I'm going to find mommy. I scooped her into my arms before she could stand. Daisy, sweetheart, mommy is working. We can't interrupt her. I hurried toward the counter. Marco, we'll come back for the desserts another day. Something urgent came up. The night breeze brushed against my burning cheeks as we stepped out of the restaurant. Daisy sobbed in my arms. Why was mommy eating with someone else? Today is her birthday. I held her tightly, unsure how to answer. I walked home mechanically, bathed Daisy, read her a bedtime story, though I couldn't remember a single word I had said. She eventually fell asleep clutching her birthday card, tear stains still on her cheeks. I sat in the dark living room, the clock on the wall ticking relentlessly. At 12:10 a.m., the sound of a key turning finally echoed through the apartment. Willow tiptoed inside. She jumped when she saw me sitting on the sofa. You're still up? I looked up, staring at my wife quietly. There was still lipstick on her lips, smudged at the edges. A faint scent of red wine and men's cologne lingered on her, not the perfume she usually wore. My voice was frighteningly calm. Daisy waited for you until 10. She made a birthday card herself. She practiced the birthday song for a week. A trace of guilt flickered across Willow's face, but it was quickly replaced with defensiveness. I didn't expect the meeting to run so late. President Ito said since I missed dinner, he should at least treat me to a birthday meal at La Dolce Vita. I suddenly laughed. That laugh made Willow's spine stiffen. What a coincidence. I took Daisy there to buy your favorite tiramisu. And there you were, having a candlelight dinner with Makoto. Willow's face went pale. You saw us. Daisy recognized you. I stood up, stepping toward her. And I had to lie to our 5-year-old daughter, tell her she saw wrong, because I had no idea how to. Explain why her mother would rather spend her birthday with another man than come home to the surprise she prepared. That's not what happened. Willow's voice rose. It was just a work dinner. Makoto introduced me to some important investors. This is crucial for my career. Enough. I cut her off sharply, my voice low but full of force. 7 years. Willow. It's always work, career advancement, important opportunities. I understand your ambition. I support your career. But today was your birthday. Daisy has been preparing for it since last week. And you. My throat tightened. The image of Makoto touching Willow's wrist under the candlelight flashed before my eyes. Willow's phone suddenly rang. She glanced at the screen and instinctively turned away from me. That tiny movement sliced through me like a blade. Go ahead, I said, walking toward the bedroom. Don't keep your important investors waiting. I'll sleep with Daisy tonight. Happy birthday, Willow. Willow stood frozen, the phone vibrating in her palm. She watched my back disappear down the hallway, realizing that something had changed forever tonight. The next morning, I prepared breakfast as usual and took Daisy to kindergarten. Willow was home for once, but we hardly spoke. When I returned from dropping Daisy off, Willow was already gone. On the dining table, she had left a note. I'll come home early tonight. We need to talk. I tossed the note into the trash. At the office, I processed work emails mechanically. The system optimization project was in its final sprint, but I found it difficult to focus. The scenes from last night haunted me, the smile on Willow's face under the candlelight, Makoto's intimate touch, Daisy's shattered little heart. A woman's voice interrupted my thoughts. Director Wang. I looked up and saw Anna Sue standing at the door of my office, holding a stack of documents. Today she wore a simple white blouse and a black pencil skirt, her hair neatly tied back. She carried an air of clean, sharp professionalism. The testing report is out. There are a few results I'd like to go over with you, Anna said, her voice clear and professional. I nodded, gesturing for her to sit. Anna quickly pointed out several system bottlenecks and offered some optimization suggestions. I was surprised to find that her technical insights were exceptionally sharp. I couldn't help asking, have you worked on similar projects before? Anna smiled faintly. I worked as an automation test engineer in Silicon Valley for 3 years. After coming back, I realized domestic companies still don't pay enough attention to the testing phase. We talked for nearly an hour without noticing, discussing everything from system architecture to algorithm optimization. I realized how long it had been since I'd had such an engaging technical conversation. Ever since Willow's career took off, I had minimized overtime and business trips, gradually stepping away from technical circles. As the conversation neared its end, Anna suddenly asked, "Director Wong, may I ask, have you been dealing with something troubling lately?" I froze. "Why do you ask?" "Professional instinct." Anna pointed to her own eyes. "Test engineers need to learn how to spot anomalies. You were perfectly fine during the technical discussion, but your gaze kept drifting, and your fingers tapped the desk at a frequency of around 120 times per minute. That's typical anxiety." I was speechless. I didn't know whether to be impressed by her observation or embarrassed by how obvious my unease had become. Anna stood up. "Sorry, that was crossing a professional boundary. I just thought saying it aloud might make you feel better. I'll bring the revised testing plan tomorrow." As she turned to leave, I suddenly said, "Do you believe someone can truly separate work and life?" Anna stopped, thought for a few seconds, then replied, "In theory, yes. In reality, rarely. Time is an indivisible resource. Give more to one side, and the other inevitably gets less." She paused before continuing. "My father was a workaholic. He was absent for most of my childhood. Now that I'm an adult, he tries to make up for it, but some things, once missed, are missed forever." I looked at her calm expression and felt an unexpected sense of resonance. After work, I didn't go home immediately. I drove to the kindergarten and sat in the car watching Daisy play on the playground with her friends. When she spotted me, she ran straight into my arms. "Daddy, my teacher praised my drawing today." Daisy waved a sheet of paper excitedly. "I drew our family at the zoo." I looked at the 3 stick figures holding hands and felt my throat tighten. I crouched down and carefully folded the drawing into my inner pocket. "It's wonderful. Let's show it to Mommy when we get home." "Okay." Daisy tilted her little face up. "Will Mommy come home today?" I remembered the note Willow left. She said she would. Back home, I made Daisy's favorite tomato pasta. 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock. Willow didn't show up. No calls, no messages. Daisy fell asleep on the sofa waiting for her, still clutching the drawing in her small hand. I carried her to bed and gently removed the drawing from her fingers. Sitting alone in the dark living room, I watched the phone screen light up and fade repeatedly. No new messages. When the clock reached 11:30, the lock finally turned. Willow walked in exhausted. Her expression froze when she saw me still awake. "You're not asleep." My voice was flat. "You said you'd come back early. Daisy waited for you all night. She wanted to show you her drawing." Willow set down her bag and rubbed her temples. "I'm sorry. Makoto had a last minute." "No need to explain." I stood up. "I'm going to bed. Daisy has a parent-child event at school tomorrow. I've already taken the day off." As I walked past Willow, I caught the familiar scent of that same cologne. This time, I didn't stop. Chapter 5. I searched through every drawer in the study. Daisy's vaccination booklet had been here just last week. Tomorrow was the kindergarten's required vaccination day. Without the booklet, she couldn't get the shot. I wiped the sweat from my forehead and my gaze landed on the bottom drawer of Willow's desk, the one she always jokingly called her girls-only private space. "Sorry about this," I muttered, pulling the drawer open. The first thing I saw was a velvet jewelry box in deep blue, the brand's gold-stamped logo gleaming. I frowned. This wasn't from any brand I had ever gifted her. Inside was a diamond necklace, the pendant refracting sharp flashes of light. The receipt was carelessly tucked beside it, and the amount made my breath hitch. It was equivalent to 3 months of my salary. Beneath the jewelry box were several photographs. My fingers trembled as I pulled them out. In the photos, Willow and Makoto were in an upscale restaurant. Makoto was placing the necklace around Willow's neck, and Willow was smiling, brightly, genuinely. A smile I hadn't seen on her face for a long time. The last photo was a selfie of the two of them. Makoto's lips were nearly touching Willow's cheek. I flung the photos onto the desk, my chest rising and falling sharply. I kept searching and finally found Daisy's vaccination booklet at the back of the drawer. As I was about to close it, a hotel key card slipped out, the words Royal Peninsula Hotel embossed in gold glaring up at me. "What are you looking for?" Willow's voice came from the doorway. I turned around to see her standing there, still wearing the dress from last night's celebration banquet, makeup smudged. Her gaze moved from the vaccination booklet in my hand to the open drawer and the scattered photos on the desk. Her face instantly drained of color. "What is this?" I held up the photos, my voice low and dangerous. Willow strode forward and snatched the photos away. "How could you go through my things?" "I was looking for Daisy's vaccination booklet," I said, each word clipped and cold. "Now, explain these photos and the necklace." Willow shoved the photos back into the drawer, took a deep breath, and began. "That was a birthday gift from President Ito. It's purely work-related. He's investing in a jewelry brand and asked me to write a promotional piece. The necklace was a sample for reference." "A sample?" I let out a sharp laugh and picked up the receipt. "A 38,000 sample. And the photos, also for work." That was a polite gesture of thanks. Willow's voice rose. You know how these social events work, Makoto's status in the industry. And this. I held up the hotel key card. Is this also part of your social events? Willow's face stiffened. That's from last week's industry summit. It was the resting lounge card. All media outlets had one. I stared into her eyes, the eyes I once knew better than anything. Now they were full of evasion and lies. A wave of exhaustion washed over me, deeper than anything I had ever felt. Willow, I said quietly, suddenly calm. Do you remember what you promised me when we got married? Willow froze, her fingers twisting nervously. Of course I remember. No, you've forgotten. My voice was soft. You promised that no matter how busy we got, we would always be honest with each other. All these years, I've supported your career, taken on most of the housework and childcare. Never complained. But I cannot accept deception. I'm not lying to you. Panic flickered in Willow's eyes. All of this is for work. You don't understand the unspoken rules of our industry. I shook my head, picked up the vaccination booklet, and said, I'll take Daisy for her shot tomorrow. You, handle things yourself. I turned to leave. Behind me, Willow's voice cracked with tears. George, do you really not trust me? I didn't look back. Trust. I thought of Willow's celebration banquet the night before. How Makoto's hand had accidentally rested on her waist as she stood on stage receiving the Financial Journalist of the Year award. How, when I left early, Willow didn't even notice my absence. In Daisy's room, the little girl was sitting at her tiny desk, drawing with intense concentration. I stood at the doorway, watching her focused profile, and the anger within me gradually cooled. No matter what happened, I still had Daisy. Daddy. Daisy looked up and immediately held up her drawing. Look, I drew our family portrait. On the paper were 3 stick figures holding hands, the little girl in the middle with pigtails, smiling brightly. My eyes burned as I knelt down and hugged her. It's beautiful. Mommy will definitely love it. When will Mommy come home? Daisy asked eagerly. I want to show her. I checked my watch. 8:30 p.m. Mommy is busy with work tonight. She might come home late. Let's take a bath and sleep first. We can show her in the morning. Okay. After bathing Daisy and telling her a bedtime story, I sat by her bed, waiting for her to fall asleep. She was exhausted, her eyelids drooping, but she still tried her best to stay awake for Willow. In the end, she fell asleep clutching the family drawing. I gently pulled the picture from her hand and placed it carefully on the nightstand. Back in the bedroom, Willow was nowhere to be found. Her suitcase was open on the bed, several business outfits neatly folded inside. I picked up the note on the nightstand. Last-minute business trip, Shanghai Financial Summit. Back in 3 days. President Ito arranged an exclusive interview opportunity. Can't miss it. Please explain to Daisy for me. Willow. I crumpled the note and tossed it into the trash. When I opened the wardrobe, Willow's favorite clothes were gone, including the deep red dress she wore on her birthday last week. My phone vibrated. It was a message from David. Old Wong. Can you work overtime tomorrow? Testing found a new issue, and consultant Sue says the architect needs to join the discussion. I replied yes. At least work would never betray me. The next morning, after dropping Daisy off at kindergarten, I headed straight to the office. In the meeting room, Anna was at the whiteboard writing test cases. When she saw me, she nodded in greeting. Director Wong. Thank you for making time, she said, her tone professional and steady. During stress testing, we found a leak in the database connection pool. Under simulated high concurrency, it could cause the system to crash. I walked to the whiteboard and examined the architecture diagram she had drawn. Anna's fingers moved across several key nodes, her nails neatly trimmed, without the fancy polish Willow favored, yet carrying a calm, practical kind of elegance. I suspect the issue lies in the connection release mechanism. Anna continued. A light jasmine scent drifted from her, subtle and soothing. I forced myself to stay focused on the problem. What testing tools did you use? Anna opened the test report on her laptop. JMeter with a custom plugin. Here are the detailed metrics. We analyzed the issue together, losing track of time until David pushed the door open with 3 boxed lunches. You 2 experts need to rest, he said. Eat first, you need energy to debug. Only then did I feel the hollow ache in my stomach. Anna thanked him and snapped apart the disposable chopsticks with practiced ease. Her movements were crisp and efficient, free of pretension, free of show. Director Wong. Wasn't Daisy scheduled for her vaccine today? Anna asked suddenly. I remember you mentioning it yesterday. I paused a moment before answering. She already got it. I took 2 hours off this morning. Anna smiled lightly. She must have been brave. Right. My niece cried the whole clinic down last time. I thought of Daisy holding back tears at the clinic, and couldn't help but smile. She only cried for a moment. The nurse said she was the bravest kid of the day. David looked between us in surprise. George, I never expected you to talk about family with consultant Sue. Aren't you usually the one who hates mixing personal matters with work? I felt a bit embarrassed, but Anna Sue continued naturally. Children from single-parent families tend to be stronger. I grew up in one too. I know what it feels like to have to learn courage earlier than other kids. Your father. I asked instinctively. My mother. A shadow passed through Anna's eyes. My father was a typical workaholic. When I was 10, he chose his career and moved abroad. My mother raised me by herself. I was silent for a moment before saying, Daisy is being raised by a single parent too, most of the time. The moment the words left my mouth, I regretted it. It was too personal. But Anna only nodded. She didn't ask questions, nor did she show excessive sympathy, and that unexpected restraint brought me a strange sense of comfort. The afternoon debugging turned out to be more complicated than expected. By 8 in the evening, only Anna and I remained in the office. I was about to suggest continuing tomorrow when Anna suddenly let out a small gasp. Found it. She pointed excitedly at a segment of code on the screen. Look, here, the connection status isn't being reset before release. I leaned in toward the screen, my shoulder almost brushing against Anna's. The jasmine scent from her once again drifted toward me, not the strong perfume Willow favored, but a soft, soothing fragrance that somehow put me at ease. I typed quickly, modifying the code. You're right. Let's run a test. The test passed perfectly. I let out a long breath and leaned back in my chair. Finally fixed it. Thank you, Consultant Sue. Just call me Anna. She closed her laptop and added, actually, I know you've been having some family issues. My body stiffened. Did Daisy tell you? No. Anna tapped the corner of her eye. Tester's observation. Your tie has been the same for several days. Your shirts have creases. You used to be meticulous. And she paused. The way you look at your phone, it's like you're waiting for a message that will never come. I let out a bitter laugh. Is it that obvious? Anna spoke softly, only to someone who pays attention. My father had the same expression before he left. We left the office building in silence. The night breeze was cool. Anna suddenly said, sometimes letting go isn't a failure. It's giving yourself, and the other person, a chance to start over. I turned to look at her. In the moonlight, Anna's profile was soft yet resolute. I wanted to say something, but my phone buzzed. It was a message from Daisy's kindergarten teacher, reminding me what to prepare for tomorrow's parent-child sports day. Anna asked, do you need a ride? You look tired. I shook my head. No, thank you. See you tomorrow. When I returned home, the empty apartment felt unbearably quiet. I gently pushed open Daisy's door. She was sleeping soundly, hugging the teddy bear I gave her for my birthday last year. On the nightstand, the family drawing was gone. I searched the room and eventually found the wrinkled picture stuffed inside her little backpack. She must have carried it with her, waiting for Willow to come home so she could show it. The 3 little figures on the drawing were now cut apart by creases, as if mirroring the reality of a family slowly breaking apart. I carefully smoothed out the drawing and placed it back on the nightstand. Then I sat beside my daughter's bed, watching her peaceful face in the dim light, and made a decision. 3 days later, Willow returned, bringing a Disney princess doll for Daisy and a designer tie for me. I accepted the gifts calmly, then handed her a document. What's this? Willow flipped it open, confusion turning instantly into shock. A divorce agreement. George, are you out of your mind? I'm perfectly clear, I said, my voice unnervingly calm. Daisy will stay with me. You can visit anytime you want, but the custody belongs to me. All because of one necklace and a few photos. Willow's voice began to tremble. You're blowing this completely out of proportion. I shook my head. This isn't about the necklace, Willow. It's about the past 7 years. Every time you chose your career over our family. It's about when Daisy's fever hit 40 degrees and you were drinking champagne with Makoto. It's about your birthday. You chose a candlelight dinner with him instead of coming home to the surprise your daughter spent a week preparing. I can change. Willow's tears finally fell. It's too late. My voice was soft but firm. I've already consulted a lawyer. You keep the apartment. We split the savings. I only want Daisy. Willow collapsed onto the sofa, the papers scattering across the floor. Do you have someone else? That new consultant? Her? I let out a cold laugh. Not everyone is like you, Willow. Consultant Sue and I are strictly colleagues. I turned toward Daisy's room, leaving my final words behind me. Sign it and let me know. Until then, Daisy and I will be moving out. Chapter 6. I stood at the door of the kindergarten principal's office, my fingers unconsciously rubbing the edge of my phone. Through the glass window, I saw Daisy sitting in the corner, her small hand tightly gripping the hem of her clothes, her eyes red as if she had just cried. Mr. Wong, please come in. The principal opened the door, her face wearing a professional look of concern. I walked in and crouched down, wanting to reach out and hold Daisy, but the little girl dodged, hiding her face behind a plush toy. My heart tightened sharply. During free activity time today, Daisy said some concerning things. The principal chose her words carefully. She said, Mommy doesn't want me anymore, and she tore up her drawing. Our counseling teacher tried to talk to her, but she refused to speak. I looked at my daughter. Daisy had always loved drawing. Every time she finished a picture, she would proudly show it to everyone. Now, several torn pieces of paper were scattered by her feet, faintly revealing the outline of a family of 3. Daisy, sweetheart, I called softly, reaching out to touch her hair. Mommy lied. Daisy suddenly lifted her head, Her big eyes filled with tears. She said she would come to watch my performance, but she didn't. Xiaomei's mommy came, but mine didn't. My throat tightened. Last Friday had indeed been the kindergarten's music performance day. Willow promised she would attend, yet she texted that morning saying she had to fly to Hong Kong for an interview. I took half a day off and sat in the front row, watching Daisy on stage turning her head again and again, looking for her mother. Mommy is very busy with work, but she loves you. I repeated the sentence I had said countless times before, but for the first time, it felt unbearably weak. I don't want mommy anymore. Daisy burst into tears. I only want daddy. I wrapped my arms around her tiny trembling body, holding her as she sobbed. Then I looked up at the principal and said, I'll handle the family matters. I'm sorry for the trouble, Mr. Wang. The principal hesitated before speaking. This is already the third emotional episode Daisy has had this semester. After recovering from her fever, she had nightmares during nap time for 2 weeks in a row. We recommend that the home environment be a bit more stable. I nodded and carried the still crying Daisy out of the kindergarten. On the way home, Daisy fell asleep in her car seat, with tears still clinging to her lashes. I parked by the roadside and gently wiped them away. My phone vibrated. It was a message from Willow. Interview extended. Might not be back until the weekend. Tell Daisy happy birthday for me. The gift is in my drawer. I stared at the screen and suddenly laughed, a bitter, almost hopeless laugh. Today was Daisy's 5th birthday. I had ordered her favorite My Little Pony cake and invited a few kids from the neighborhood to celebrate at home. Willow had forgotten. Again. When we got home, I carried the sleeping Daisy to her bed and tucked her in carefully. Then I went into the study and pulled out a cardboard box from the bottom shelf. 7 years worth of our marriage. On the top was a photo from our honeymoon. Willow, still young, smiling brightly on a gondola in Venice. Back then she would put aside her work even for a simple homemade dinner. Beneath that was Daisy's growth journal, her first smile, first role, first step. Most entries had notes beside them like, Mom traveling for work or Mom working late. I opened the latest album, filled entirely with Daisy's drawings. I had marked the date and the story behind each picture on the back. One particular drawing was wrinkled, Daisy's first family portrait. Willow had casually stuffed it into her bag to take to work. It came back crumpled beyond repair. She said, I accidentally pressed it on my desk, but now I couldn't help wondering if she ever truly cared about our daughter's feelings. My ringtone suddenly cut through the silence. It was David. Hey Wang, can you come to the office tomorrow? HQ is sending people to review the project. We need the technical director, the one they trust, to be present. I rubbed my temples. I took 3 days off to celebrate Daisy's birthday. I know, but this is really important. David's voice carried apology. Consultant Sue already prepared the testing report, but the old guys at HQ only trust you. I glanced at Daisy's room and replied, I'll go in the morning, but I must be back by the afternoon. After hanging up the phone, I continued sorting through the memories in the box. At the very bottom was a stack of yellowed papers, a printed copy of the Google offer email I turned down, records of the 3 promotions I declined, and the critical condition notice I signed when Daisy had pneumonia while Willow was reporting at the International Financial Forum. Each piece of paper felt like a knife slicing into my heart, revealing a cruel truth. In this marriage, I had always been the only one compromising, the only one sacrificing. It was late at night. I sat on the sofa in the living room with the draft of the divorce agreement from the lawyer spread out in front of me. My phone lit up with a message from Anna. I heard you're coming to the office tomorrow. The testing report is ready. There are some technical details you might need to explain. If you need help, I can assist with preparations for Daisy's birthday party. I've got experience organizing children's events. Warmth surged through me as I read her message. Anna had always been like this, showing up at the right time with the right amount of help. Neither overstepping nor too distant. I replied with thanks but declined her offer. Daisy's birthday was something I wanted to handle myself. The next morning, I took Daisy with me to the company. The little girl wore her favorite blue dress, holding in her arms the My Little Pony plush toy I had made for her last night. She was in much better spirits. Daddy needs to work for a bit. Can you play with Auntie Wang in the break room? I knelt down to fix the bow on her dress. Secretary Wang was a long-time staff member and often helped look after Daisy. Daisy nodded, then suddenly asked, Will Mommy come to my birthday party? My hand paused. Mommy is very busy with work. Oh. Daisy lowered her head and kicked the floor lightly with her small foot. I know. Inside the meeting room, I listened absent-mindedly to the questions from the HQ representatives, mechanically answering technical details. Anna sat beside me, occasionally supplementing with test data. Her voice was clear and professional, allowing me to let my mind wander to the birthday party arrangements for the afternoon. After the meeting, Anna quietly slipped a piece of paper into my hand. There's a surprise in the break room. Puzzled, I walked toward the break room. When I pushed the door open, I froze. The small room was filled with colorful balloons, and Secretary Wang, along with several female colleagues, were gathered around Daisy singing a birthday song. On the table sat a beautiful cake, not the one I ordered, but decorated with all of Daisy's favorite cartoon characters. I looked in surprise at Anna, who had just walked in. A little gesture from everyone. Anna smiled. I heard the little princess has her birthday today. Chris from marketing happens to know someone at the cake shop. Daisy ran over excitedly and shouted, "Daddy, look at my cake. It has Queen Elsa and Peppa Pig." I picked her up, looked at Anna with gratitude, and said, "Thank you." Anna replied softly, "Don't thank me. It was everyone's effort. I used to spend my birthdays alone when I was little. I know how that feels." In her eyes flashed a familiar sadness, the kind I had seen often in children from single-parent families. At that moment, I felt a strange sense of connection, as if Anna understood my situation better than anyone else. The afternoon birthday party went very well. 5 kids from the neighborhood came, and Daisy's cheeks were rosy from laughing so much. I took many photos and sent them to Willow, but received no reply. That night, after putting Daisy to sleep, I sat on the balcony and seriously thought for the first time about life after divorce. The lawyer said I had a high chance of winning custody, especially with the kindergarten teacher's testimony and Daisy's emotional episode records. But the thought of telling Daisy that her parents were separating made my chest feel unbearably heavy. My phone vibrated. It was a message from Anna. "Hope Daisy liked today's surprise. Children's smiles are the most precious gifts," I replied. She loved it. "Thank you. Do you like kids a lot?" My sister passed away, and my nephew lived with me for 2 years. Later, my brother-in-law remarried and moved away, but those 2 years were the most fulfilling time of my life. Reading her message, I suddenly understood what it was about Anna that felt so comforting. She understood what true family responsibility meant. Not the bond of blood, but the daily companionship and the quiet, steady giving. On the weekend, Willow finally came back, carrying an expensive electronic keyboard for Daisy and a face full of exhaustion. When Daisy saw her mother, she first rushed forward in excitement, then suddenly stepped back and hid behind me. "Daisy." Willow looked at her daughter in confusion. "Mommy brought you a gift," Daisy said softly. "I don't want a gift. I want Mommy to stay home." Willow's expression froze. She looked at me, accusation in her eyes. "What did you say to Daisy?" I answered calmly. "I only told her the truth. She's 5 now. She understands more than you think." Willow crouched down, wanting to hug Daisy, but the little girl clung tightly to my trouser leg and wouldn't let go. In the end, Willow could only awkwardly place the keyboard on the sofa before turning to me. "We need to talk." In the bedroom, Willow closed the door and asked directly, "Are you really going to get a divorce?" I nodded. "Did you read the agreement?" "George." Willow's voice rose. "Just because I'm busy with work, you know how competitive this industry is. If I relax even a little, I could be replaced any time." "It's not because you're busy," I said, still calm. "It's because you chose Makoto, not me and Daisy." Willow's face instantly turned pale. You're talking nonsense." "Royal Peninsula Hotel, room 3206. I looked straight into her eyes. "Last Wednesday night, you told me you were doing an interview, remember?" Willow's lips trembled. "You followed me?" "No." I let out a bitter laugh. "Your credit card purchase alerts go to my email. A double spa package, very romantic." Willow collapsed onto the bed, covering her face with both hands. "It was just a moment of weakness. He's nice to me. He appreciates my talent." "And what about me?" I asked softly. "Don't I appreciate you? In these 7 years, have I ever once failed to support your career?" Willow fell silent, tears dripping onto her meticulously maintained hands. "Sign the agreement." "Willow." I walked toward the door. "For Daisy's sake, we should at least end this with some dignity. What if I refuse?" Willow suddenly lifted her head. "What if I fight for custody?" My hand paused on the doorknob. Without turning around, I said, "Then I'll present your hotel records with Makoto to the court, along with Daisy's emotional episodes documented by the kindergarten." "Do you really want it to come to that?" Behind me, I heard Willow's suppressed sobs, but I didn't turn back. I closed the door softly and walked into the living room. Daisy was sitting on the carpet, curiously staring at the brand new keyboard. "Want to try it, sweetheart?" I knelt beside her. Daisy shook her head and leaned into my arms. "Daddy, will you always stay with me?" I held her tightly and answered, "I promise." The next day, I took Daisy to the downtown children's amusement park. Since the project entered its critical stage, it had been a long time since I brought her out to play. Daisy excitedly dragged me through every attraction, and on the carousel, she laughed like a little son. "Director Wong, what a coincidence." A familiar voice came from behind. I turned around and saw Anna holding hands with a 5 or 6-year-old boy. Both of them wore Mickey Mouse ear headbands, looking ridiculous yet warm. "Consultant Sue, this is my nephew, Andy," Anna introduced with a smile. "After my sister passed away, I've been taking him out every week." Andy shyly hid behind Anna, while Daisy curiously peeked out and said, "Your Mickey ears can light up. So can yours." Andy pointed at the matching headband on Daisy's head. The 2 children quickly warmed up to each other, and Anna and I exchanged a smile. naturally walking side by side behind them. I didn't expect you to enjoy places like this, Anna said as she watched the two little ones chattering nonstop in front of us. I smiled. Daisy likes it. After a pause, I added, thank you for what you arranged yesterday. Our colleagues were very kind. Actually, Anna hesitated for a moment. It was my idea. Secretary Wang mentioned Daisy's birthday, and I thought of my own childhood, so I took the liberty to plan it. I looked at her in surprise. Sunlight filtered through the leaves, casting mottled shadows across her face, making her look soft and warm. I suddenly realized that this was the first time in months I felt a sense of peace inside. The kindergarten's having a parent-child sports day next week, I said without thinking. If you and Andy are interested. Anna's eyes lit up. We'd love to. Andy has been wishing for a playmate. On the subway ride home, Daisy leaned sleepily against my chest. Suddenly she mumbled, Daddy, is that pretty auntie your new girlfriend? I almost choked on my own saliva. No, she's just a colleague. Oh, Daisy sounded a little disappointed. I like her. She gave me yummy candy. I gently rubbed her hair but didn't respond. Yet somewhere deep inside me, a small thought began to take root. Maybe, just maybe, after all of this is over, life might still have new possibilities. Chapter 7. Willow ended her Hong Kong trip earlier than planned. 3 days of non-stop rain had forced the scheduled interviews to be cancelled, so she changed to the earliest flight home. On the plane, she kept replaying the expression I had when I brought up divorce, that calm, resolute look that was far more frightening than any anger. The sound of the key turning echoed sharply through the empty apartment. Willow dragged her suitcase inside, surprised to find that I wasn't home. The clock on the wall showed 3 in the afternoon. At this hour, I would normally have already picked Daisy up. Daisy, George, she called out twice. Only the hum of the refrigerator responded. Setting down her suitcase, Willow headed toward the bedroom to change clothes. As she passed the study, she noticed the door was slightly ajar, with the faint sound of paper rustling inside. George, are you? She pushed open the door, but her words froze halfway. I was standing with my back to her at the desk, a stack of documents spread open in front of me. Hearing her voice, I turned around abruptly, a pen still in my hand and a flicker of panic crossing my face. You, how are you back already? My voice came out dry. Willow's gaze fell onto the documents on the desk. Even from a distance, the title was unmistakable, Divorce Agreement. The air seemed to solidify. A rush of heat surged to Willow's head. The suitcase slipped from her loosened fingers and crashed heavily onto the floor. You really want to do this? Her voice trembled violently. I was silent for a moment, then gently closed the document. I thought we had reached an understanding. What understanding? Willow suddenly raised her voice. You unilaterally deciding to divorce counts as an understanding. She strode forward and grabbed the papers. Among the dense clauses, one line stabbed her eyes like a blade. Child custody granted to the father. Daisy is my daughter. Willow nearly screamed. What makes you think I would give up custody? My expression hardened. How about the fact that you missed 3 out of the last 4 of her birthdays? Or that you've skipped the parent-teacher meeting 2 years in a row? Or that when she had a 40-degree fever, you were drinking champagne with Makoto? I told you that was a misunderstanding. Willow slammed the papers onto the desk. And what right do you have to judge me? If I didn't work myself to death, where would this apartment come from? How do you think Daisy goes to a private kindergarten? I suddenly laughed. A laugh so cold that it made Willow's spine tighten. You think I care about that? 7 years ago, when I turned down the Google offer, the salary was double what I earn now. I rejected 3 promotions so I could have time to watch Daisy grow up. I opened a drawer and took out a notebook. Do you know what this is? Willow stared at the plain black notebook, confused. From the day Daisy was born, I recorded every important moment of hers. I flipped it open. Her first smile, her first time rolling over, her first steps, and next to every entry, I noted where you were. I opened to a random page. Look, June 15th, 2018, the day Daisy said "Mama" for the first time. And where were you? Reporting on the financial summit in Berlin. Another page. December 3rd, 2019. Daisy's first day of kindergarten. You were in Shanghai attending an economic forum. Willow's hands began to tremble. I didn't know you recorded all that. My voice grew colder. I pulled another folder from the shelf. There's more. These are the promotion opportunities one turned down. These are the invitations to tech conferences I ignored, because you were traveling at those times. And Daisy needed at least one parent with her. I turned on the computer and pulled up a page. This is the record of Daisy's illnesses over the last 3 years. 17 times. I took her to the hospital alone 15 of those times. The 2 times you were there. One of them you spent taking a work call in the hospital. Willow felt dizzy, gripping the edge of the desk just to stay upright. These numbers, these records, were like a merciless mirror, reflecting the reality she had never dared to face. You've been collecting all of this, just for today. Her voice choked. I shook my head. No, I recorded these because I thought that one day, when you finally asked me about Daisy's childhood, I'd be able to tell you how she grew up. I let out a bitter laugh. But you never asked. Willow's tears finally burst free. This isn't fair. You never told me you gave up so much. I did. Willow. My voice suddenly sounded exhausted. Every time. You said, just hold on a little longer. Wait until this project is over. I'll make it up to you next time. 7 years have passed. I don't believe in the next time anymore. Willow collapsed into the chair, her vision blurred with tears. Then she noticed a photo on the desk. A picture of me, Daisy, and Anna at the children's amusement park. Daisy stood in the middle, holding my hand with one side and Anna's with the other, smiling brighter than the sun. Is it her? Willow pointed at the photo, her voice turning sharp. You're divorcing me because of that woman. My expression turned unreadable. Consultant Sue is just a colleague. But honestly, she might have spent more time playing with Daisy than you have. The sentence stabbed Willow's heart like a knife. She jumped to her feet, swept the photo off the desk, and shouted, I won't sign it. Daisy is my daughter. I won't let you replace me. Replace you? My voice suddenly rose as well. Willow, when have you ever truly been a mother? Daisy's first family drawing was wrinkled because you stuffed it into your bag. The Mother's Day card she made for you ended up forgotten in your office drawer. And when she had a 40-degree fever, you were out with another man. I wasn't on a date. It was work. Willow screamed back, but even she could hear the guilt in her own voice. I shook my head, bent down, and picked up the photo, gently placing it back in the drawer. I've already found a temporary place. I'll move out with Daisy tomorrow. The lawyer will contact you to discuss the details. You can't do this. Willow grabbed my arm, her nails digging painfully into my skin. Give me one more chance. I can change. I can work less. I slowly pulled my arm away. It's too late. Willow. Trust is like glass. Once it shatters, it can never be put back the same. Willow suddenly dropped to her knees and clung to my leg, pleading, please, don't take Daisy away. She's all I have left. I froze, looking down at the woman who once carried herself with so much pride, now collapsed at my feet. For a moment, I almost softened. But then Daisy's voice echoed in my mind. Mommy doesn't want me anymore. The choice is yours. I stepped back slowly. If you insist on fighting for custody, then we'll see each other in court. But think about Daisy. She needs stability and presence, not a courtroom battle. Willow sat on the floor helplessly, her face streaked with tears and ruined makeup, her perfectly styled hair sticking messily to her cheeks. She watched me calmly organize the documents, and for the first time, she felt something unfamiliar. The men who once bent to her every demand now looked at her breakdown with nothing but pity. Did you ever love me? She suddenly asked, her voice hoarse. I stopped, looked at her seriously, and said, I loved you deeply. But love needs effort from two people. Willow, I held on alone for too long, and I'm drained. I picked up the files and my laptop, heading toward the door. After school tomorrow, I'll take Daisy straight to the new place. You need time to think, and so do I. The sound of the door closing wasn't loud, but in Willow's ears, it exploded like thunder. She knelt in the empty study, finally realizing she might lose this family forever. It wasn't clear how long it took before Willow managed to stand. She staggered toward Daisy's room, pushing the door open. She saw the familiar pink bed, neat as always. Picture books and crayons lay on the small desk. The walls were covered with Daisy's drawings. Most were of 3 people, but the recent ones were only daddy and daughter. Willow sat on Daisy's little bed, picked up her daughter's small pillow, and took a deep breath. The faint, milky scent that belonged only to Daisy still lingered on the fabric. Tears streamed down Willow's face again, dripping onto the pillow. She pulled open the drawer of the bedside table, looking for a tissue, but instead found several crumpled pieces of paper. When she unfolded them, she saw Daisy's crooked handwriting. I want to be with Mommy. Why doesn't Mommy come home? I love Mommy. Each note looked as if Daisy had used all her strength to write it, some letters even written backward. A sharp pain twisted violently in Willow's chest. She clutched the notes tightly, curled up on Daisy's little bed, and cried like a child. At 10 that night, Willow was startled awake by the ringing of her phone. Groggy, she reached for it. On the screen, the name Makoto glowed. In an instant, all her pain and regret ignited into fury. What is it? She answered the call, her voice cold as ice. Willow, I heard you came back early. Makoto's voice was as charming as ever. Perfect timing. There's a private cocktail event tomorrow. A few major investors will be there, and I wanted to introduce you. Makoto. Willow cut him off. How many times have we slept together? There was a clear pause on the other end. What? 3 times. 4. Willow continued, her voice terrifyingly calm. Was it worth my marriage and my daughter? Willow, calm down. Makoto's tone grew cautious. Did George find out? I can explain. No need. Willow let out a cold laugh. I finally realized something. You never respected me, did you? I was just another trophy to you. Another finance reporter you managed to conquer. That's ridiculous. Makoto snapped, the irritation of being exposed seeping through. I thought we were just adults playing a game. Willow hung up abruptly and tossed the phone aside. She walked into the bedroom, the one that had belonged to me and her, and looked at the wedding photo hanging on the wall. In it, she wore a white wedding dress, smiling radiantly. George looked at her with eyes full of love. She suddenly remembered what I whispered to her on our wedding day. No matter how busy we get, we must remember why we started. Willow sank to her knees beside the bed, burying her face into the sheets. There was no trace of my scent left on them. She finally understood. This marriage hadn't died suddenly. It was suffocated slowly, day by day, by her neglect and selfishness. And by the time she woke up, George was already too far gone. Chapter 8. Willow stood in front of the children's clothing store window, staring at the light blue dress inside. Blue was Daisy's favorite color, and the dress was printed with the My Little Pony characters she adored. The shop assistant had already looked at her 3 times with a questioning expression. And finally, Willow pushed open the door and walked in. This dress, size 110. Please wrap it up. She pointed at the display in the window, then picked a matching set of hair accessories and socks from the rack. These as well. While paying, she noticed a set of parent-child t-shirts displayed beside the counter. She hesitated for a second, then grabbed the pair labeled Best Mom in the World and Best Little One Ever, placing them on the counter. The shopping bag dug red marks into her wrist, but she didn't feel the pain. It had been 2 weeks since I moved out with Daisy. Willow had tried calling, texting, even waiting outside the kindergarten, but I kept my distance, polite, yet firm. Daisy was always excited to see her, but that excitement carried a cautious fear that Mommy might disappear again. That fear pierced Willow's heart like a blade. Her phone vibrated. She snatched it up. Makoto again. It was the 3rd missed call from him today. Ever since that night, Makoto had been strangely persistent, but Willow didn't want to hear a single word from him. Right now, her mind had room for only one thing: getting her family back. Downstairs from the apartment I was temporarily renting, Willow took a deep breath and pressed the doorbell. No response. She tried again. Still silent. Just as she wondered whether to leave the gifts at the door, the elevator opened and a middle-aged woman stepped out. Looking for Mr. Wong, the woman asked after glancing at her. He and Daisy went to the park. They left not long ago. Willow thanked her and hurried downstairs. The early summer sunlight stung her eyes. She remembered there was a small park nearby. Daisy loved the swings there. There weren't many people in the park, and she quickly spotted George. He stood by the swing, gently pushing Daisy as she soared upward. The little girl's laughter was clear and bright, sparkling in the sunshine. Willow's lips involuntarily curved upward. She was about to step forward when a familiar figure walked toward them. Anna. She wore a simple white t-shirt and jeans today, her hair casually tied into a ponytail. She looked much younger than she did at work. When George saw her, his face broke into a light, relaxed smile Willow hadn't seen in ages. Anna held 2 ice creams, handed one to George, then crouched down to wipe the melted ice cream off Daisy's cheeks with a tissue. Willow froze where she stood, as if nailed to the ground. The interaction between Anna and George was unbelievably natural, like a real family. Daisy even held Anna's hand affectionately, dragging her toward the swing. George stood by watching them, his eyes filled with a softness and peace Willow had almost forgotten existed. The shopping bag slipped from Willow's hand and hit the ground with a dull thud. She staggered back a few steps, turned around, and hurried away. Her heart pounded violently, a loud buzzing filling her ears. It wasn't until she left the park that she realized she was already crying. Back in the empty apartment, she spread out the clothes she bought for Daisy on the bed. The blue dress, the hair accessories, the socks, the parent-child t-shirts. Suddenly, she grabbed the Best Mom in the World t-shirt and hurled it at the wall with all her strength. Liar. She screamed at the empty room. You're not a good mother at all. Her phone vibrated again. Without checking the caller ID, she answered sharply. I told you to stop calling me. Willow. It was Editor-in-Chief Dorian's voice. What on earth is going on? She quickly wiped her tears. I'm sorry. Editor-in-Chief Dorian. I thought it was. What can I help you with? The follow-up report on Makoto's exclusive interview. Did you finish it? The deadline is tomorrow. Dorian's voice carried clear irritation. And he just called, saying your attitude toward him was completely unacceptable. What exactly happened? Willow tightened her grip on her phone. I'll submit the article on time. As for Makoto, we have some personal disagreements. I don't care what personal issues you two have. Editor-in-Chief Dorian's tone grew sharp. Bytian Tech is one of our most important clients. Makoto specifically requested you for this series. Don't mess this up. Willow, your chief correspondent position is still waiting. After hanging up, she mechanically opened her laptop and pulled up the follow-up draft for Makoto's interview. The words on the screen suddenly felt foreign. All the praise for Makoto's business insight, all the glowing descriptions of his charisma now looked hollow and ridiculous. She remembered the scene she saw in the park, that effortless understanding between George and Anna, the kind she once had, and the kind she personally destroyed. Damn it, She slammed her laptop shut and held her head in her hands. She had to do something. She couldn't just lose her family like this. The next morning, she stood at the kindergarten gate with a box of cookies she baked overnight. They were Daisy's favorite chocolate chip cookies. She used to make them every time she returned from a business trip. When I arrived holding Daisy's hand, Willow froze for a moment. "Mommy." Daisy let go of me and ran toward her. Willow crouched down and hugged her tightly, breathing in the faint strawberry shampoo scent in her hair. "Baby, did you miss Mommy?" "Yes." Daisy planted a loud kiss on her cheek. "Daddy said you're very busy with work, so you couldn't come see me." Willow lifted her head toward me. I stood there expressionless. I knew I had lost weight, and the dark circles under my eyes were still visible, but inside, I wasn't exhausted anymore. "Not like before. I baked cookies," Willow said, lifting the box. "Your favorite." Daisy cheered as she took the box, immediately taking a big bite. "So good, Daddy. You try some." I shook my head. "It's time for class. Daisy, put the cookies in your bag and have them after school." "All right." She obediently closed the box, and Willow quickly added, "How about Mommy picks you up this afternoon? We can go get ice cream." Daisy's eyes lit up, but then she looked at me, hesitation clouding her little face. "But Auntie Sue said she'd take Andy and me to play today." Willow's smile stiffened. I cleared my throat. "Daisy, head inside. You'll be late." After watching Daisy run into the kindergarten, Willow turned to me. "So you're that eager to find Daisy a new mother?" My eyes turned cold instantly. "Don't say that in front of her." Anna just happened to be at the same park with her nephew. "A coincidence." Willow let out a bitter laugh. "Just like she, coincidentally, showed up at your office. Coincidentally, helped organize Daisy's birthday party." "That's enough." My voice was quiet, but each word was like a blade. "You have no right to question who I spend time with. Have you signed the divorce papers?" Willow's tears spilled over. "George, give me another chance. I know I messed up. I can change." "Too late, Willow." I shook my head. "Some things break and can never be pieced back together." I turned to leave, but she grabbed my arm. "At least let me pick Daisy up today, please." I hesitated for a moment, then finally nodded. "Have her home before 5. She has school tomorrow." Willow stood at the kindergarten gate watching me walk away. I didn't look back. I truly didn't love her anymore. In the office, Willow forced herself to focus on Makoto's article. The deadline was fast approaching, but her thoughts kept drifting toward Daisy. On the computer screen, Makoto's handsome face appeared in the interview video, speaking confidently, a look that now only made her sick. "Reporter Lou, how's the draft coming along?" Makoto's assistant suddenly appeared at her desk. "President Ito would like to preview it before publication." Willow squeezed out a strained smile. "Still revising. It should be ready this afternoon." President Ito specifically emphasized highlighting his insights on technological innovation, the assistant said with a pointed tone. "Not his personal life." Willow immediately understood. Makoto was worried she would expose their affair. A surge of anger shot up her spine, but she forced herself to nod calmly. Of course, a professional report should focus on his work. After the assistant left, Willow stared at the screen and made a decision. She deleted every flattering description of Makoto's charm, leaving only the driest business analysis. To hell with him. She would at least keep the last bit of her professional integrity. At 4 in the afternoon, Willow left the office early to pick up Daisy. The kindergarten teacher looked surprised to see her. "Daisy has already been picked up." "What?" Willow's heart dropped. "Who picked her up?" "Her father and Miss Sue," the teacher replied. "They said they had informed you." Willow didn't wait for her to finish. She bolted out of the kindergarten, hands trembling as she dialed my number. It rang for a long time before I answered. "What the hell are you doing?" She practically screamed. "We agreed that I would pick Daisy up today." I was silent for a few seconds. "Willow, calm down. Did the teacher not tell you?" Daisy suddenly developed a fever. "The kindergarten called both of us." "You didn't answer." "I was in a meeting. So Anna went to pick her up." "We're at the hospital now." Willow's blood turned to ice. "Which hospital?" "At the Children's Hospital emergency room." Willow spotted me immediately. I stood in the infusion area, holding a flushed Daisy in my arms. Anna stood beside us with medicine and an ice pack. Seeing this scene, Willow felt her heart twist painfully. This should have been her place. "Daisy." She rushed over and reached toward her daughter's forehead. I shifted away slightly. "She just fell asleep. Don't wake her. I'm her mother." Willow lowered her voice, but it trembled with urgency. "I have the right to." "Rights?" My eyes were cold as ice. "For the past 5 years, where were you every time Daisy got sick? Now suddenly you remember you have a mother's rights." Willow opened her mouth, but no words came out. Sensing the tension, Anna spoke gently. "I'll go get some water for Daisy," and stepped away tactfully. "The doctor says it's a mild fever caused by a common cold," I said more calmly. "Once the 4 is done, she can go home." Willow stared at her daughter's pale little face. Tears blurred her vision. "I'm sorry." My phone was on silent. I didn't hear. It's fine. I cut her off. You're always like this anyway. That calm statement hurt more than any accusation. Willow collapsed onto the chair beside us, covering her face with both hands. She heard me quietly thank Anna when she returned, heard Daisy murmur "Daddy" in her sleep, and heard the sound of her own heart breaking. After the four finished, I insisted on taking Daisy back to where we lived. Willow had no standing to argue. She could only follow silently behind. Before getting into the car, I turned to look at her and asked, "How are you thinking about the divorce agreement?" Tears welled up again in Willow's eyes. "So you can't wait to be with her, is that it?" I sighed. "This has nothing to do with Anna. I just want to give Daisy a stable environment." I paused, then added, "The lawyer said if you refuse to sign, we can file for a unilateral divorce after 2 years of separation." Willow felt as if she had been struck by lightning. She hadn't realized I had thought this far ahead, that I had even discussed unilateral divorce with my lawyer. Suddenly, she understood. This marriage was truly beyond saving. Back home, Willow mechanically opened her laptop to finish that damned article. A new email notification popped up. Sender, David. Subject, some things about George. Confused, Willow clicked it open. Reporter Lou, I'm David, George's colleague. This might be presumptuous, but I think you have the right to know this. George never told you, but last year Microsoft China offered him a high-paying technical director position, 3 times his current salary. He turned it down because the job required frequent travel, and he didn't want Daisy to grow up like he did, barely seeing her parents. He rejected at least 5 similar opportunities. Every time he said it was for family reasons, but we all knew he did it to support your career. Now seeing him risk losing Daisy, I feel it's unfair. If you have any conscience left, please don't make things harder for him during the divorce. David. Willow stared at the email, feeling the world swirl around her. She knew George had sacrificed a lot for the family, but she never imagined it was this much. And what had she given him in return? Betrayal. Neglect. On the computer screen, Makoto's interview video continued to play. For the first time, Willow saw this man clearly. Arrogant, hypocritical, selfish, and because of someone so unworthy. She had lost the husband who loved her most, and the daughter who adored her. Tears dripped onto the keyboard. Willow deleted the entire draft and began writing again. This time, she wrote a truly objective report, exposing ByteDNTech's product flaws, and the questionable tactics behind Makoto's business practices. It might destroy her career, but at least she could regain a shred of self-respect. After sending the article, Willow texted Editor-in-Chief Dorian, I rewrote the Makoto report. It may not meet the client's expectations, but I believe it's the more truthful version. I'm prepared to face any consequences. Then she called her lawyer, about the divorce agreement. I'm ready to sign, but I want to negotiate visitation rights, at least twice a week to see Daisy. After hanging up, Willow curled up on the sofa, holding Daisy's favorite little blanket. Her daughter's scent still lingered on it, the only comfort she had left. Outside, the sunset cast blood-red light across the room. Willow remembered the day she and George married 7 years ago. It was at dusk too, and she remembered what George whispered in her ear. No matter rich or poor, in health or in sickness, I will love you, cherish you, until death parts us. Death had not parted them. Her selfishness and indifference had. Chapter 9. The fountain pen hovered above the divorce agreement. Willow's fingers trembling slightly. Ink gathered at the tip, finally dripping onto the paper and blooming into a small blue dot, like a tear. She took a deep breath and signed her name. The moment the pen cut into the paper, Willow felt as if something inside her snapped. The lawyer politely handed her a tissue, and only then did she realize her face was already wet with tears. The visitation rights have been written according to your request, the lawyer said softly. Every Wednesday afternoon and all day Saturday. Mr. Wong has no objections. Willow nodded, unable to speak. A corner of a colorful sheet peeked out from under the folder on the lawyer's desk. She instinctively pulled it out. It was a drawing by Daisy. There were 2 houses on the page. One big and one small. Inside the big one were 3 little figures. Inside the small one was only one. Beside the 3 figures were the words Dad, Daisy, Aunt Sue, and beside the single figure, Mom. This is. Willow's throat tightened. The lawyer showed an awkward expression. Mr. Wong said Daisy has really been into drawing lately. He asked me to pass this to you. Willow carefully folded the drawing and placed it in her bag, terrified of bending even a corner. When she stepped out of the law firm, the early summer sunlight stabbed at her eyes. Her phone vibrated. It was a message from Editor-in-Chief Dorian. Makoto saw your report. ByteDNTech will terminate all collaboration with us. The board demands a public apology from you, or you'll be fired. Standing in the middle of the sidewalk, Willow suddenly laughed. In a single day, she had lost both her family and her job. What a perfect irony. Back home, no. She could no longer call it home. Just an empty apartment now. Willow took a bottle of George's wine from the cabinet. He had taken most of his personal items but had left behind these bottles. She lifted it to her lips and drank straight from it. The sour, harsh liquid burned her throat. On the desk sat her Financial Journalist of the Year trophy. Next to a thick stack of business cards, Makoto, Dorian, President Wang, the network she once believed mattered. Willow grabbed them and tore them apart one by one. When she reached Makoto's card, she tore especially hard, as if by doing so she could erase that shameful memory. The wine bottle was soon half empty. Willow staggered toward Daisy's room, the children's room she insisted on keeping exactly the same. The tiny pink bed was neatly covered with Daisy's favorite star-patterned blanket. The desk still held the puzzle they last completed together. Willow collapsed onto the bed, burying her face in the little pillow, breathing in the faint scent that still lingered, her daughter's scent. "I'm sorry. I'm sorry," she whispered into the empty room, not knowing to whom she was apologizing. Her phone rang again. This time an unfamiliar number. Willow forced herself to answer. "Hello. Is this MS Willow?" a woman asked. "I'm Susan, the editor-in-chief of Independent Finance. We read your report on Byteon Tech and really admire your professional courage. Would you be interested in discussing the possibility of working with us?" Willow froze, the alcohol clearing from her mind almost instantly. Independent Finance, but that's a startup media outlet. Small but elite, Susan said with a smile in her voice. "We can't offer the salary of big outlets, but we guarantee absolute editorial freedom. Your report embodies exactly the kind of journalistic spirit we value." After hanging up, Willow sat on the floor and looked around the place that had once been filled with laughter. The family portrait still hung on the wall, the three of them smiling so happily. She reached out and gently touched George's face in the photo, then Daisy's. In reality, they now formed another family unit, and she had become the weekend mom. With wine and tears mixing together, Willow curled up in Daisy's room and fell asleep. In her dream, she saw an older Daisy looking at her coldly, saying, "You're not my mom." On Children's Day, the sunshine was exceptionally bright. Willow arrived at the park half an hour early and chose a bench with a clear view of the entrance. According to the divorce agreement, today was her turn to spend the holiday with Daisy. Over the past year, she had never been late for a single visitation. She always arrived early, afraid of missing even 1 minute with her daughter. Her phone buzzed. It was a message from me. Something urgent came up. "Anna will bring Daisy over. Noon sharp. Same place." Willow's fingers hovered over the screen, unsure how to respond. It had been a year, and George had never missed a handover before. Yet today, he was letting Anna come instead. She took a deep breath and replied simply, "Okay." At exactly noon, Willow spotted that familiar little figure. Daisy had grown taller, wearing a brand new yellow dress, hopping along cheerfully. Behind her was Anna, dressed in a simple blue sundress, holding a cartoon water bottle and a sun hat. Willow stood up and forced a smile. The moment Daisy saw her, she sprinted over. "Mom." That single word, "Mom," almost stopped Willow's heart. She crouched down and hugged her daughter tightly, greedily breathing in the scent of sunshine and children's shampoo lingering on Daisy. "Did you miss Mommy?" she asked softly, her voice trembling. Daisy nodded vigorously. "Yes, Daddy bought me a new puzzle. We finished it together. It's so pretty. And Auntie Sue baked me little cookies." Willow's smile stiffened. She looked up at Anna approaching. Anna nodded politely and said, "Happy Children's Day, Willow. George had an urgent meeting, so I came to bring Daisy." Willow stood up, discreetly studying the woman who had replaced her. Anna looked even more composed and confident than the last time they met. Her eyes and brows carried a glow Willow recognized all too well, the glow of someone cherished by love. "Thank you," Willow said stiffly, taking Daisy's small backpack. "I'll bring her back on time at 5. Anna hesitated before speaking. "Actually, George said if you want, you can take Daisy to dinner tonight. Just bring her back before 8. The sudden gift of leniency caught Willow completely off guard. For the past year, George had followed the visitation schedule rigidly, never allowing any changes. "Why today? Daddy and Auntie Sue are going to see a new house." Daisy suddenly blurted out. "We're moving into a bigger home." A wave of dizziness hit Willow, and she had to steady herself on the bench. Anna's face flushed instantly. "Daisy, we agreed it was supposed to be a surprise." "I'm sorry." Daisy realized she had slipped up. Her big eyes filled with tears. "I forgot." Willow forced down the feeling of a knife twisting in her chest. She crouched and wiped the tears off her daughter's cheeks. "It's okay, sweetheart. That's a wonderful thing. Mommy is happy for you." Anna stood awkwardly. "Willow, we're not." "No need to explain." Willow cut her off, her voice surprisingly calm. "George has the right to pursue his own happiness. And thank you for taking care of Daisy. It's clear she loves you very much." Anna looked even more uneasy at that. "Daisy talks about you all the time. Her bedroom wall is covered with pictures of you too." Willow nodded, not wanting to continue this conversation. "We're going to ride the carousel. I'll bring her back before 8. Watching Anna's retreating figure, Willow felt a strange calm. Over the past year, She had imagined countless times how George and Anna looked together, and every time her heart would ache. But now, seeing the love and guilt in Anna's eyes with her own eyes, she found that the pain wasn't as sharp as she had expected. "Mom, I want cotton candy." Daisy tugged at her hand, swaying it back and forth. Willow pinched her daughter's cheek with a smile. "Okay, today, whatever you want to do, Mommy will do it with you." They spent the entire 4 hours in the park playing the carousel, bumper cars, paddle boats. Willow bought Daisy cotton candy, ice cream, and balloons, and took hundreds of photos. In the end, they lay exhausted on the lawn, having a small picnic. "Mommy, look at what I drew." Daisy pulled out a sheet of paper from her little bag. "This is for you." Willow took the drawing, her breath catching in her throat. On the paper were 2 houses, one red and one blue. There were 3 little figures inside the red house and one inside the blue one. But this time, there was a small path drawn between the 2 houses, and a little girl was walking on it with a smile on her face. Above the drawing, in wobbly handwriting, it read, "I love both my homes. Do you like it?" Daisy asked expectantly. "Auntie Sue said I can have 2 homes, and they're both my homes." Willow hugged her daughter tightly, not letting Daisy see her tears. "I love it, sweetheart. This is the best gift Mommy has ever received." In the evening, Willow took Daisy to eat her favorite pizza. Watching her daughter devour the food, she couldn't help asking, "Is Auntie Sue good to you?" "Yeah," Daisy answered with her mouth full of cheese. "She reads me stories and makes little bear cookies. Daddy said she'll live with us from now on." Willow's hand trembled as she set down her fork. "Anne, are you happy?" Daisy thought for a moment, then nodded seriously. "Happy, but..." Her little face drooped suddenly. "Sometimes I miss Mommy. Daddy said I can call you anytime, but I'm scared you're working." That sentence stabbed straight into Willow's heart like a blade. She cupped Daisy's cheek gently. "Mommy's work isn't busy now. You can call me anytime, at any moment." "Really?" Daisy's eyes lit up. "Auntie Sue said you opened your own studio now, and you're really amazing." Willow was surprised Daisy knew that. Over the past year, her life had indeed changed a lot. After being fired by her old company, she accepted the offer from Independent Finance, and later, together with several like-minded journalists, founded her own financial studio focusing on in-depth investigative reporting. The income wasn't as high as before, but she had finally rediscovered the original passion that made her want to be a journalist. More importantly, she had learned to balance work and life. Every Wednesday and Saturday, no matter how busy she was, she put everything aside to be with Daisy. At other times, if her daughter called, she would rush over immediately. "Mommy, is it time?" Daisy looked at her children's watch. "Daddy said I need to go home at 8. Willow nodded and asked the waiter for the bill. She wished she could stay with her daughter a little longer, even just one more minute, but she couldn't break promises to Daisy anymore. Downstairs at my new apartment building, Willow held Daisy's hand tightly, her heartbeat quickening. She wasn't ready to face George and Anna together, but to her surprise, only George was standing at the entrance waiting. "Daddy." Daisy let go of Willow's hand and ran toward me. I bent down to pick her up, nodding at Willow. "Thank you. Did you have fun?" "So much fun," Daisy answered before Willow could. "Mommy bought me balloons and cotton candy, and we rode the carousel 3 times." I listened to my daughter's excited chatter with a smile, though my gaze occasionally drifted toward Willow. After a year, I had become more composed and confident, the tiredness around my eyes gone, replaced by a calm sense of fulfillment. "I heard, you're moving." Willow gathered her courage and asked. I nodded. "Yeah, we bought a house with a garden. Daisy can finally have the puppy she's always wanted." I paused for a moment. "And you? I heard your studio is doing well." "It's okay," Willow said softly. "At least now I can control my own time." An awkward silence fell between us. Daisy was already dozing off on my shoulder, her tiny hand still gripping the balloon tightly. Willow and I spoke at the same time, then stopped at the same time. "You go first," I said. Willow took a deep breath. "I want to thank you for keeping Daisy in contact with me, Anne. I hope you and Anna are happy. She seems like a good person." My expression softened. "Thank you. Anna really understands the importance of family." I paused. "I should thank you too, Willow. We had good times, and you gave me Daisy, which means more than anything." Those words nearly made Willow burst into tears. I was able now to look back on our marriage with calmness, even gratitude for the good within it. While she still dreamt of going back during lonely nights, "I should take Daisy upstairs," I said after glancing at my watch. "She has school tomorrow." Willow nodded and stepped forward to kiss her daughter's cheek. "Good night, sweetheart. Mommy loves you." "Mommy, good night too," Daisy murmured sleepily. "I love you 3,000 times." It was their good night ritual, inspired by Daisy's favorite picture book. Willow held back tears as she watched me carry our daughter into the elevator. And just as the doors were about to close, I suddenly said, "Oh, Daisy's birthday is next month. If you'd like, you can come over and have cake with us. Anna said she can make the Black Forest you like." The elevator doors closed before Willow could respond. She stood in the empty lobby as tears finally broke free. What was this? Charity? Pity? Or had George truly let go of all resentment and wanted her to be part of their new life? When she walked out of the building, rain had begun to fall. Willow didn't open her umbrella. She let the rain mix with her tears as they slid down her cheeks. She remembered the day she signed the divorce papers. It had rained just like this. A year had passed. She thought she had accepted reality, but seeing George talk so calmly about his new home and new life brought back a pain as sharp as ever. Her phone buzzed. It was a message from a colleague at the studio. Willow, the evidence of Bitey and Tech's financial fraud has been verified. Can we publish the piece tomorrow? Willow wiped her tears and replied, publish it. This is our responsibility. This was the creed of her new life, responsibility to her work, her daughter, and herself. The cost had been steep, but she had finally learned it. The rain grew heavier. Willow stood under the bus shelter, looking up toward the windows of George's apartment. A light was on. She could vaguely see George holding Daisy, their silhouettes cast against the curtain. Soon, another slender figure joined them, Anna. The three stood there for a moment before the curtains were drawn. Willow tilted her face to the sky, letting the rain wash away her sorrow. She knew that when the sun rose tomorrow, she would keep moving forward, for Daisy, and for herself. But tonight, on this rainy and empty night, she allowed herself to grieve everything she had lost. The bus arrived. Willow took one last look at the glowing window, then stepped onto the bus and headed home.